it's helpful to know something about the geography of Israel. It has often been pointed out that in the past 4,000 years, more wars have been fought for the possession of the tiny strip of land known as Canaan or the land of Israel or Palestine than have been fought for almost any other area in the world. And in the ancient world, the reason for this was that this very small rectangle, it's about 150 miles long and 70 miles wide. It's about the size of Rhode Island. This very small rectangle lies on the way to anywhere worth going in the ancient Near East. You've got Egypt over here, you've got Asia Minor up here, and you've got Mesopotamia over here. Not a tremendous amount of inherent value in this strip of land, but it's important for where you could go by traveling through it. So you have three main trade routes that cross the country, and they were used by trading caravans that would carry gold and grain and spices and textiles and other goods between Egypt and the rest of the Fertile Crescent up into Asia Minor. So control of these international highways brought a great deal of wealth to the area, but the central location was a double-edged sword. Because in times of peace, it would bring prosperity, but of course, in times of war, the land was perpetually invaded as armies would crisscross the land, going off to do battle with the great powers. So on their way to conquests in Egypt or Asia Minor or Mesopotamia, armies would tramp through the land. And that explains the succession of rulers that have held the region. The Egyptians, the Amorites, the Israelites, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Greek Ptolemies, the Seleucids, the Romans, and the list continues as we go on into the medieval and the modern periods. Now, despite the fact that this is a very small piece of land, it boasts great geographical diversity. So there are three main geographical subdivisions, and they really run in strips from north to south. First, on the west side, you've got a low coastal plain. It's about 20 or 30 miles wide. It's the coastal plain, and that provides that is the main highway out of Egypt or down to Egypt. That area was controlled by Egypt at the purported time of the Exodus. Running north to south next to that coastal plain is a region of low mountains. These low mountains are cut by some valleys that sort of run east-west. You'll see one there, the Valley of Jezreel in particular. That was a particularly fertile valley. So the valleys that cut through the mountains are extremely fertile. The plain of Megiddo also joins with the Valley of Jezreel. That's the most fertile part of the country, but it was also the site of many of the most bloody battles in Israel's history. Then next to that north-south central hill country, you've got also running north to south what we call the Great Jordan Rift Valley. It goes the entire length of the country. And the Jordan River runs through this valley. It rises in the Sea of Galilee or the Kinneret in the north, and then it flows about 65 miles, I believe, down to the Dead Sea. At the northern extreme of this rift, the Rift Valley, is Mount Hermon, which is the highest point. It's a snow-covered Mount Hermon, and that's the highest point in Israel. It rises about 10,000 feet above sea level. The central mountain area, those are between 4,000 and 10,000 feet above sea level. As you move from the central area over to Jerusalem, Jerusalem is about 2,500 feet above sea level, but then as you continue moving east towards the Rift Valley, that area is dramatically lower, and you feel it as you travel the road there, just how quickly it drops, so that by the time you get to the Sea of Galilee, you're 700 feet below sea level, and the Dead Sea is nearly 1,300 feet below sea level. That is the lowest point on the Earth's land surface. So it's a dramatic drop in just a very short geographical area. Up in the north, the river is surrounded by very lush vegetation on both sides, but there's no life 65 miles south down by the Dead Sea. This is because the water is 25% salts and minerals, although I hear they found some sort of bacteria or something there, so I guess I shouldn't say anymore that there's no life, but essentially there's no life we would care about in the Dead Sea area. So it's a very desolate area, and tradition identifies this as a site of Sodom and Gomorrah. The area around the sea is basically semi-desert. We call this the wilderness of Judea, between Jerusalem and the Dead Sea, the wilderness of Judah or Judea.